Welcome back for another episode of Sportslandia, brought to you by MPA Plus.
A little different.
Yeah, different venue. This might be the new permanent venue. We might change some things around to make it maybe more appealing.
Might be. I'm playing a road game here.
Yeah, you are definitely playing a road game. You had to travel for this one. I rolled out of bed, basically.
Yeah, you got the rest day advantage already.
Yeah, exactly. Long night for both of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so change of venue. Thanks to Golden State Lumber for the first, 2 months plus, I guess, that we were doing this. They ended up moving out of their office space, so we just had to move along with it. So
here we are.
Thank God.
Adapt or die.
Yeah, thank goodness for this random space on the side of the house that we're currently renting, and we can use as a studio. So
perfect.
Welcome to the new studio area for the most part. Packed show. We're going to talk a little bit about the college football madness that happened over this past weekend with Championship Saturday, and now the announcement of the Final Four.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
Everyone was pretty happy with the decision, right?
Yeah, totally. Everybody was in unison and in agreement with it.
No one ever disagrees about those things.
We'll recap with what everybody is talking about since the season started, the in-season tournament for the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everybody's been talking about it. And then we'll talk about the NFL games. Not really much happened in the noon slate. We mainly just want to talk about the Eagles-Niners game because that's the only good thing I felt like that happened this week.
It's the only thing we really learned much from.
Yeah.
Other than maybe last night's game as well.
Yeah, the Packers and the Chiefs. Yeah,
packed show.
And then the MVP race for that, and then we'll go into Fantasy Sandbag. We're off for a week, so we'll go back into that one.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a little heartbroken with your strategy that we'll get into when we get there.
It was going to be so bad, but it wasn't bad enough.
It was not bad enough. And then I figured maybe if we have some time after that, we'll kind of talk some recent rules in our own fantasy league, Goose Eggs.
Yeah. It's come up a couple times.
Yesterday. Punishments maybe. And then Nerd Corner. Nerd Corner if you're up for that as well. So that's what we got going on. Let's just jump right into the college football Final Four debate. The Final Four: Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama.
Two of those pretty easy locks.
Yeah, Michigan and Washington, you just figured undefeated. They won their conference, won the conference championships.
Yep.
Those are easy two locks.
Yep.
Then you get Texas and Alabama that are in there.
They start flying around.
I sort of understand the argument for Texas. They beat Alabama early, but it was also like Jaden Milroe was not who he is now when he was there at the beginning of the season. Like after that game, he got benched for I think it was like a game and a half, maybe it was 2 games. And then he came back into the lineup and has played good enough for Alabama to win these games down the line.
Right.
So I think he has grown. So maybe Texas, not necessarily the strongest schedule either.
It was weird to me that it seemed like the one-line response every time was like, well, Texas beat Alabama, so they got to get it.
That was months ago.
And it's like I rarely have seen that argument actually work in favor of a team making the college football playoff, I feel like. And yeah, like you said, it's the beginning of the season, and it's like, so Texas made it because Alabama won their last 2 games?
Basically, yes.
If they don't win those games, Texas is probably not here.
Because then it's just like, well, Texas was good enough to beat this team that beat these last 2 teams. But again, this was 2 teams that were still trying to find their identity at the beginning of the year, specifically Alabama, because they just had always been looking for another quarterback, I feel like, for...
Yes. I wasn't overly impressed by the rest of Texas' schedule. The main gripe is Florida State, right? The undefeated Power 5 conference champion.
13-0, won the ACC. Some say the ACC is weaker.
Sure.
Which,
some in the committee, it would appear.
Yeah, some of the committee, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but... At that point, you're undefeated. You should probably be in it. Otherwise, you sort of...
It's hard to go back.
I mean, the ACC is a major conference, but you sort of run into that UCF issue years ago where they were undefeated and the committee was just like, well, you play in this weak conference. Well, we're undefeated. Like, why are we not at least getting a seat at the table? I've also heard the case now that this is the last year for the Final Four because it expands next year. So it's just like, well, we don't have to figure out a way to fix all this right now. We'll just run with it. We're going to tell you what it is, and we're just going to do it.
Sure.
And I kind of feel like that's how it was. At one point, I even said it in our group chat, I thought, for the committee, they were just going to be like, well, Georgia was undefeated all year and they only lost to Alabama, and it was a close game.
Yeah.
And I could have just seen them being
champs.
back-to-back champs too. Like, they hadn't lost a game in, 2 years?
Yeah.
Two plus years until that point?
Yeah, to go from the number one team to out of it after one game. Like, it's just...
In a game that they were very much in it, too.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, it's not like they got blown out by 14, 21 points. They were in it the entire time. So to see them drop to 6 of all spots, that didn't make a lot of sense to me. I kind of thought Texas should be the one looking in.
Texas was the surprise for me. I saw a lot of hate, I guess, for Bama making it, but it's like they won those games.
They won the 2 tough
Georgia.
games, yeah. Now, granted, they needed a Hail Mary to beat Auburn, so that doesn't look good. And Auburn is
like the 30-yard line. Is that a Hail Mary? I heard this mentioned earlier. And I was like,
maybe not a traditional Hail Mary. It was fourth down. It was fourth down.
They did need a prayer of a play to make that happen. Fourth down, in the corner.
Yeah, so... Alabama, I could see it because, Georgia was a very good team throughout the year. They were always a question mark for some people, but the defense kind of stood time there and did their job, and offensively Beck found his way throughout the entire season to
and I do feel like
get wins.
The SEC does have to be in there,
100%.
So that kind of argument didn't hold a lot of water. It does just feel like Texas kind of piggybacked in with Alabama. It's weird that they're the 3 seed and Alabama's the 4 seed, but we'll see.
I would have loved to have seen those two play each other again, just to get that out of the way.
Yes.
But that's not going to happen because they're going to be on opposite ends of the bracket. Like, Michigan's going to play Alabama because it's 1-4, then 2-3, it's Washington, Texas.
Yeah,
which I think for Michigan, that might be trouble.
Well, yeah.
Defensively, they'll be okay, but offensively...
Yeah, I watched the video of them seeing Alabama get selected, and there was a lot of groans from Michigan. They were like, oh, God, these guys are going to deal with them? Yeah. That's what we get for being the 1 seed here?
Yeah, that's a tough look for them.
It is.
Tough draw.
At least Pac-12 gets in on their dying breath.
Washington's fun to watch. Their defense still isn't, spectacular. They still let up a good amount of points, so we'll see how Texas responds, and now that they're in, how they face up against Washington. Think about it, it's 2 conferences that don't play a lot of defense.
This was just starting to form in my mind. It looks to me like we've got a side of the bracket that is defense and a side of the bracket that is offense, and those two will battle each other out, and then the championship's going to be defense versus offense, hypothetically. So maybe it worked out.
And then that's the old cliche: something's got to give here.
Yeah,
one of these teams has got to break.
Unstoppable force, immovable object.
Yeah.
So we'll see which does
iron sharpens iron, all that stuff.
Oh yeah. So it could end up being fun, but I think Florida State has some legit gripes.
Yeah.
I think Texas is just lucky that Alabama got in. Otherwise, they're not getting in.
Otherwise, they're not getting in.
Which is just a very weird argument to me, but okay.
If you're Georgia, I think you could make a case 6. That's a little low ball right there. 5 maybe, but again, I think Texas should just be a few steps behind. Alabama, you take them because they were the SEC champs.
I think one SEC is enough too. It's tough to get 2 in there with 4 teams.
They've done it before.
They have.
That's what I'm trying to get at here. It's the SEC has such a stronghold in these committees, and Sankey and the SEC
for a reason.
I mean, they're very good at football.
Yep,
they win a lot of games, and they've won a lot of national championships. So it's just I get that, but come on. Georgia's a very good team. I think Georgia's a better team than Florida State is.
And they're playing each other in the Orange Bowl, I believe.
Okay, so
Florida
we'll
State,
see.
Georgia. So we'll
see.
Out. What would be the most hilarious option is if Florida State beats Georgia without their starting quarterback, and then it's ugh.
Then that's a real one, yeah.
Quite awkward, but maybe we'll get our wish next year. What's crazy to me is this is the last year of 4.
Yeah, we'll move on to 12.
It's been too little, and now they're completely jumping it, I feel like, and going to way too many. 12?
I feel like you could have done 6, and people would have been happy.
6 would have been perfect.
1 and 2 get a bye.
Yep.
And then
there's really only ever an argument for 6 teams. It's throw Florida State and Georgia in there, everybody's happy.
Because you're just giving an automatic bid to all the conference champions at that point.
But there's not even that many conferences left, and we're going the opposite way.
You get to 5. Years? Well, now it's going to be 4 because Pac-12 is no longer there.
It's going to be 2 from the SEC, 2 from the Big 10, 2 from the Big 12, and then they'll sprinkle in some UCFs and some wild card teams and. maybe
12
the
is
ACC
just,
will be allowed to be in at that point.
12 seems a little too much for me.
That's going to take like all of December, January now? Like
basically, you just play every single week again. You extend it because you go from 12 down to 6. Even that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. 6 or 8 would have been. 12 is a lot. Like there's going to be
the first two have to get a bye then, because it has to be 10 teams. Because then you get it down to that doesn't work out.
I don't really. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams that back their way in though after losing in their conference championship, which I just don't totally get. Like it's like Oregon would have been in. It's like okay.
Because
that's
here's the end of the top 12 right now. Because after Georgia at number 6, Ohio State at number 7. Okay, like offensively, they did some nice things. I would say mainly Marvin Harrison Jr. helped McCord do a lot.
Yes.
Oregon, I think Oregon was a good team, but defensively still not very strong. You see why Washington scored a bunch of points on them twice.
Yeah.
Missouri was under the radar for me the entire year. I didn't even realize they were in the top 10.
Yeah.
They are at number 9. They're 10-2, which means they went through the SEC.
Wow.
Great story on them. They were completely under the radar. I never even realized that they were playing so well.
That was Florida State for me as well. I think I was a couple days ago. I was
they're undefeated.
They're top 4. They're gonna make it.
Yikes.
Awkward.
10 you had Penn State, 11 you had Ole Miss, and then 12 you have Oklahoma.
The more you say names, the more I think 6 is a great number.
6 has to be. You could go at large. Liberty. They're 23, but they're 13-0.
Sure.
But yeah, just I don't. 6 is the best number because you get the 2 very best teams. You usually end up with 2 undefeated teams at least.
Yeah. And for years it was the 1-2, so it does make sense to have the 1-2 elevated.
Boom, give them a bye, and then
fired out everybody else.
3 plays 6 and 4 plays 5, and
because all those, like you said, the Ohio States, the Oregons, it's those were good teams that did have chances and ended up faltering throughout the season and losing in their conference championship before that. It's that's the cutoff. There it is. But it's weird to me now that they're jumping it. It's the NCAA just can't seem to get it right. But I'm sure it's going to make buku bucks. So what do they care?
Well, yeah, that's all they care about. That's all it is for them.
Yeah. So
it's more money in their
pockets.
Things
radically change, which it feels like we're headed towards. They're just going to keep breaking it in as much as they can.
They'll let that happen 3 years after they expand to 12, so they can really soak in all that money for the last little bit.
Yeah.
It's
all those are sponsored bowl games now. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
It does make sense, but yeah. This is usually the time that I engage most in college football when we have these arguments when the decision day comes down and I'm out there saying I have opinions on stuff and I've not watched very much of these teams. It's just, you hear the resumes, you argue the resumes. That's 30% of college football.
See, the problem with the whole Texas thing is it's people are strength of schedule. It's well...
Did they have that strong? I don't know. It didn't look
Texas. I don't know, but for Alabama, everybody in the SEC in week 12 or whatever plays, Little Sisters of the Poor.
True. Every college team does at some point.
Yeah, but they do that at the beginning of the season where it's we need to
ramp up.
Yeah, exactly. Ramp up to our conference season. This is a game where we can practice our stuff for the most part. There are upsets. Don't get me wrong, but this is where we work on our stuff going into the season. That's why it's at the beginning. Where Alabama and all them are let's basically have a bye week right now, sort of reset. While everybody else, you've got Michigan going up against, I'm making up the team right now, but say Wisconsin, and they're just going Big Ten defenses just head to head and not doing anything and really beating each other up. And then Alabama, for the most part, has a bye. Georgia has a bye.
Yeah.
And so it just doesn't sit right with me in that sense, because then Texas is we played you early in the season. That actually is a good win for them because...
It seems to me it's the only one anyone talks about.
But it was so long ago. Alabama was still looking for its identity at that point.
Yeah.
Had that game been later in the season and then Texas beat Alabama, say that week 12, they just decided to do a non-conference game and play Texas or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I guess next year it could be because they're going to be in the SEC.
Yeah.
But, you play that then and then Texas beats you. It's okay, maybe that win actually looks way more meaningful now.
100%. It's the timing of. It's Georgia losing this game versus losing that game in September.
Yeah,
they would be in the championship, but they lost their last game.
Yep.
So they're not.
Exactly.
So it's human nature. It's whatever you want to call it, but it is obviously a huge factor in these things.
Shall we move on to the greatest tournament that we have seen in the last
I guess
couple weeks?
Real quick, we should... Any predictions for this mini bracket for college football?
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah, mini predictions.
I'm rooting for Washington.
Same. I would like to see them in the championship game. I think they will end up in the championship game.
I do too. I think Alabama will probably beat Michigan.
Same. Same. And I hate to say that because Michigan has had a season where they have just blown the doors off of teams.
Yeah.
Not that they had the best strength of schedule, but they just... There's differences between winning games, 24-13 and winning games 62-13.
Yeah.
And they did that consistently throughout the year until these final couple games. Harbaugh's not there. I don't know how much the coach, affects the play game day wise because he's still there throughout the entire week.
Yeah, which was
implementing game plans and things like that.
This is just purely historical for me. It's hard to pick against Alabama. I've seen Michigan fail in this spot or similar spots so many times.
Well, you think about what happened to them last year at TCU. All year their defense was good, and then TCU just out-punched them, basically. Yeah. I mean, they scored in the 50s. That's not looking good for your defense. So, right? Wasn't it the 50s? Yeah.
I defer to you.
Could have been the 40s. Either way, though, it was a high-scoring game where Michigan's defense had been highly touted basically most of the year, and that's how it's been this year too. It's like this team takes care of other teams, and hey, we slow down Ohio State and we slow down all these other teams. So, and you wonder if that hurts you once you get to playoffs against a team like Alabama, who had to scrap and claw their way in these, especially in these last two games, just to get there. Mm-hmm. You come and play a Michigan team that's used to just winning 20-3 or whatever. Yeah, it's hard to pick against Alabama after those last two. So I would anticipate Alabama, Washington, and then I'm certainly going to root for Washington to win it all. Same, but I think both of us realize that Alabama is, it's kind of hard to beat them. Now they did have a couple injuries, like Kool-Aid McKinstry went out. He's the starter on defense for them. I still don't think, Milroe has made some nice plays. I know he's trying to verbally make a case for the Heisman for himself, which is cool. I'm good with that. Okay. That's him that's doing that. Most Heisman cases are made verbally, right? Not on the field. Well, he's more speaking his own name into the Heisman race is what he's trying to do. That's what I mean by that. But I really don't think he's... Is there someone who you think who's going to win the Heisman this year? Who's your pick? I have no idea. One of the quarterbacks? Penix, I could definitely see. Yeah. Somebody in this, I guess I could see Marvin Harrison Jr. up there. Seem like Caleb Williams had good enough of a year. No, his team struggled down the stretch. Maybe if Harrison had dragged them into this college football playoff, he could have been up there. Yeah. That doesn't seem like there's a strong favorite. And there was Bo Nix, but Bo Nix couldn't beat Michael Penix, so twice. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to say, hey. He's not going to win. No, he's not going to win. Penix is probably the guy. I'd be curious. He seems to be a whole level below a lot of these other draft quarterbacks I've been looking at. So it's kind of weird to me because he seems like he's on the level with the rest. He's even above the level of the rest of them because he's the only one here. The only knock against him drafting wise, he's torn his ACL twice. That's a big one. Yeah, that's tough. But hard to overcome the injury factor. So especially when you're scouting long term, that's a big red flag. Yeah, you don't just go down one more time, you're done basically. I don't think I've ever heard anybody doing it 3 times in the same leg, like most people. No, roll that one back not athletically. With much success stories after that I can think of, but I think. Now that we've solidified that bracket, I think we can move on to this next bracket, this larger bracket, this NBA in season bracket. It's the quarterfinals taking place. One in the West, one in the East. Yeah. First game, your squad's in it. Pacers versus the Boston Celtics. Let's the 2 versus 3 in that order. I'm excited for this game. Hey, is Kristaps Porzingis still healthy? No. He's not. Are you shocked by this? No, not at all. That's why I asked the question. I got a report today that he might be able to make it in one of these next 2 rounds. He might be back. And they want that bonus. There's a little more incentive for some of these players. Sure. But Al Horford's been playing well of late. He can slide in there for a couple games. This Pacers team is fun, man. They are on a historic pace offensively. They lead the NBA in pace. They lead the NBA in 9 different categories offensively. With That's incredible. Points, 3-point assists. It's a ridiculous number of things. So do you have the perimeter defense then, as the Boston Celtics? If Drew Holiday's out there, I would love to stick him on Tyrese Haliburton and see what happens. That would be a great matchup, right? Fantastic. That's the ideal kind of person we can throw at the point of attack there.
I'm not sure how healthy he is if he's playing. I hope he is. And then beyond that, most of the time this era of Celtics team is just do they make their threes, which isn't always the funnest, analysis when it's just like, yep, if they make their threes, they'll win. If they don't,
that's
lose.
a 50-50 shot right there. Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that every game?
Yeah, to an extent, but they seem to lean on it quite heavily. But yeah, there won't be any Kristaps to start, but the Pacers are definitely beatable. Halliburton does seem pretty invested in this, though. Like I think he was said at one point, like, I do want to win this. I haven't really won anything in my career, so the players do care. It seems like a little. So I'm excited for that one. Rooting for the Celtics. The other game of the night is the Kings and the Pelicans, which should be fun if Zion plays as well.
That's the big one. Is Zion going to play? I was filling out our fantasy thing. I was like, why is there only one game this week for some of these teams?
It must be like they'll add more after.
They have to.
That being said, I'm playing him tonight because I was scared by that. Seeing the one game on the week, I was like, yeah, you're going to play tonight.
Oh, yeah, same here. Yeah, I did that. I did that with a couple of guys. Zion was one of them, and so was Sabonis.
Yeah.
So, and those two are playing against each other. The Kings are fun. You know?
Since De'Aaron Fox got back, they've been cruising again. They've got Keegan Murray and Malik Monk, and these young guys are lighting the beam.
Lighting the beam, I forgot about that. Yeah,
it's such a great gimmick. And I guess I'm not sure where these games are being played actually, but the Pelicans are also
I would assume
like a
the
weird
higher
team.
Seed.
Oh yeah, you're probably right. So maybe it'll be in Sacramento. Well, maybe they will light the beam.
Light the beam.
The Pelicans are good. They got a lot of collective good players. It's just like, are they all going to play together, and what do they look like? Because it's tantalizing when you put it all on paper.
I think McCollum's out too.
Yep, he is. Yeah, but it's like you got Brandon Ingram, you got Zion, you got Trey Murphy's just kind of working himself back, who was really good for them last year. So I think Valanciunas is there cleaning stuff up when Zion's not playing. So they've got some options. I'm intrigued by that one. The other two tomorrow, the Bucks and the Knicks, which ironically I think they were in each other's group and they already played.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, you're right.
But that'll be fun. Dame maybe has a chance to go deep in some kind of season something.
A tournament. It's a tournament, all right.
It's a tournament, yeah. So him and Giannis, their offense has been crazy. Their defense has not.
I think that's the Drew Holiday factor, though. He was the guy defensively.
Drew to Dame defensively is like an insane drop off.
Yeah.
And offensively, like,
and I love Dame, but defensively,
he's a negative. He is. I don't. And obviously, people haven't really paid attention because he's just been in Portland for ages. But like now that he's in these championship situations, he is going to be hunted.
Yep.
Constantly. And it's Jalen Brunson. He can go off. So they've got a shot. I would lean Bucks. I mean, even with those defensive issues, having Giannis cover up for Dame is like the perfect option. And offensively, it is a disgusting pick and roll, and they've got a lot of options off the sides of that. So that's pretty scary. And then the final one is also a great matchup, the Lakers and the Suns.
Yeah.
Obviously, old man LeBron and his team, still good. And yeah, Devin Booker, KD, Suns, no Bradley Beal, he's still hurt. Nurkic has actually been playing well, which is weird and gross to say.
I can't.
But now that these are important games, he'll probably foul out by the third quarter, if I had to guess. But we'll see.
Keep an eye on that one.
I will. I'll try not to. I know him specifically. I can't really watch him very much. I'm glad he's not on our team.
You've watched him a lot over the last few years. You don't need to be watching any more of it. I understand.
But yeah, it's been decent return so far. I'm not sure if they're doing the crazy courts for these games or not. I'm into it if they do. I don't care if they don't. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but it's been fun to kind of set them apart. And yeah, some of the just very bright colors and colors that don't necessarily mesh. And
right.
It's, as someone who's been working these Blazers games, when they do it, it kills like the color correction of the cameras and the broadcasts looked so gross on some of these games. Really gross. Anytime there's like yellow or green, it just, everything was tough to look at in a lot of cases. So.
See, like, I know a team that has a court similar to that has a year-round. I just freaking hate the Oregon Ducks court.
Oh,
it's the ugliest freaking thing I've ever seen.
I love the concept. It's like 30% too much. Like, trim the trees. That's all I ask.
Yeah, like
I like the idea, but it's like I don't even know where the lines are. That's where I draw the line.
Oh.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. I do. But I like the idea of it. I don't want to begrudge people trying stuff. But
no, I don't want to either. Yeah, they need to
up.
scale that one back just a little bit.
Yeah. Any favorites in this final 8? Anyone who's going to get to Vegas for you?
I see the Kings and the Bucks.
Kings over Pelicans. Kings and Bucks.
You asked for my championship, right?
I did ask for that.
Yeah, so Kings and Bucks. Yeah.
And
then I'm gonna go Kings because defensively the Bucks are gonna.
Wow, that would be great. Kings light the beam in Vegas. I'm into that.
No, they light up the ball, the Vegas ball now.
Oh, the sphere.
The sphere, yeah.
That would actually be crazy. You're kind of talking me into the Kings. I do not want to pick the Lakers or the Suns. That's part of it.
I was picking the Suns over the Lakers in my mind, and then it was going to be Kings and Suns.
I feel like the Lakers will find a way to beat them, and then hopefully the Kings win. Kings Lakers. That's pretty fun.
That's a classic.
That's
like
the
early
2000s Chris Webber revenge for the horrible officiating game. So that'll be pretty fun. I think I'm with you, but I think I
mean, you have to go against your heart because the Celtics are still in it.
I think I'm going to go Kings Pacers.
Kings Pacers. Okay, so you're saying the Celtics are losing tonight.
Want the Celtics to win, but if they don't hit their threes and if Kristaps is not there and the pace and offense that the Pacers have, I could see them losing. I obviously will not be rooting for that, but I'm gonna pick the Pacers over the Kings too. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna see. I still love Tyrese Halliburton, even if he's not on my fantasy team anymore. And the level of offense they have is pretty scary, but it is susceptible. They don't have that many stars around Tyrese. Some of the defensive stuff isn't as good. But yeah, screw it. I'm gonna go with that.
Screw it. We're gonna do it.
I think I honestly might think the Knicks will beat the Bucks too. I don't know. I'm a little curious about the defensive stuff there.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, we were talking about how bad they're defensively the Bucks have been.
But the Knicks are hard to trust as well. It depends how much Julius Randle has the ball. So, but yeah, a couple of good brackets coming up.
Yeah.
Start doing it out. Another bracket that's starting to form is the NFL bracket.
Yeah.
Then a playoff picture. Wow, the Dolphins are kind of in the 1 seed right now.
Yeah, because of the Chiefs' loss yesterday.
Yeah, and the Ravens on bye. I guess the Jags tonight could almost tie them, maybe.
Yeah, they could end up being 9-3. I honestly kind of like them end up being 9-3 because Jake Browning is still Jake Browning's still the quarterback for the Bengals. Unfortunately,
not a real team.
Yeah, I mean offensively, it's just not the same without Joe Burrow running it. So. 49ers gain a game on the Eagles.
Yes.
I think that's
a little revenge from the championship game last year.
And I know the Eagles were talking some smack about that, being like, we would have beaten you anyways, even if Brock Purdy didn't get hurt, didn't matter.
I don't know.
Do you want to maybe rethink that now?
Yeah.
Because he just kicked your fucking doors off.
Yes.
Him and Debo.
He threw some great screens to Debo.
Yeah.
He played well as well. I still... don't really buy it. He's playing on the best offense with the best skill positions.
I'm not saying Brock Purdy's the MVP or anything like that.
But having him obviously is a huge difference.
Having a quarterback that can throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field, 2 yards down the field at times.
Literally not even having a quarterback in that game.
Yeah.
They made a whole rule about it now because they didn't have a quarterback. So
yeah,
big difference. Yeah, when the Niners have all their guys, their offense is just terrifying. It really is. And the Eagles, if it seemed like they were able to get them into some third and long situations. They aren't able to use their secret cheap play with the tush push. It becomes harder for them to kind of sustain drives and mainly just to keep up with this Niners attack. They just scored over 40 points.
Yeah, it's just over and over and over. There's really not a time where they slow down.
So they're looking pretty scary. Them and the Eagles up at the top. And I mean, it kind of factors into the MVP conversation, obviously, because I feel like it's Tyreek Hill, and it's not really close, but it's not going to be Tyreek Hill. It's going to be a quarterback.
I think it should. Well, we saw that Jalen Hurts probably take a bit of a step back in the MVP race.
Brock Purdy.
It was Brock Purdy, but I still
comical.
I don't think it's necessarily him though. He's competent enough to be in that offense to make it hum. Yes,
I would have given it to McCaffrey.
Same
on that team.
Same.
Even this last
he is
game,
the most. They give him the most looks out of anybody else on that team.
Games with a touchdown or whatever. He was pretty. He does so much for that team. To me, it was the actual MVP race I feel like is Tyreek and McCaffrey, and then it's like I guess there's a couple quarterbacks after that, but the Jalen Hurts thing is like I guess you could give it to him. It feels like they as a unit, as a team, are just so solid.
Yes,
he does elevate the offense to an extent.
I agree,
but I don't know if he is like carrying his team to the finish line either. Like they're pretty solid around, which is the same thing with Brock Purdy, which is just like no, like I'd rather give it to Kyle Shanahan than I would him.
Some people are making
McCaffrey, like we said.
Yeah, people are making a case for Dak Prescott too, especially after his big Thursday night game against Seattle.
He probably is the one quarterback other than Lamar, who I think is just so up and down. It's kind of hard to give it to him. That I think Dak probably has the strongest case of any quarterback because he is. They need him to ball out to win those games, and he is throwing it all over the place and getting CeeDee Lamb the ball. And then Tony Pollard hasn't been as good as they thought he would be. So I do get that. I mean, they are going to end up just being a 5 seed. So it's kind of a tough one to actually make an argument about.
I'm a Dak hater, so.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've never, like, statistically, he's had some nice seasons, but I've never been like, Dak is the guy.
I haven't necessarily either, and he's not quite on that level even this year, it would appear. I mean, but I think he's good. I think I've always thought the problem with the Cowboys is just Jerry Jones, like, and it will continue to be. And however their season ends is usually the most hilarious fashion possible, which is always good to see. But yeah, I mean, the year that he hurt his ankle or whatever it was, he was on pace for some pretty crazy numbers. He's basically been on pace for those same numbers again the past like 4 or 5 weeks. So he's played really well. They are playing like it seems like pretty easy teams and just blowing them out. So it's hard to know. But yeah, I do think it's Tyreek Hill. Like he's incredible. He's gonna have 2,000 receiving yards. He is making Tua look really good.
Yeah,
Tua is not.
Yeah, no, I think Tua is he's
fine.
He's a better than average quarterback, but he's not like a win because of quarterback.
No, he's closer to Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, than Dak. Maybe that's not a good scenario for you. I don't know. But
maybe this.
But I feel like this is the perfect year to not give it to a quarterback. It's just not going to happen. They're going to give it to Jalen Hurts or, God forbid, Brock Purdy.
I hope it's not the latter. I could stomach the former.
I could too. I would be like, yes, they're
that's typical NFL.
He's got 10 rushing touchdowns or whatever. They made this hack play that nobody else ever thought of, and it's working, and he's a big part of that. Okay, sure. Quarterback 1 seed, that's pretty much always what it goes to anyways. But if the Dolphins can sneak the 1 seed, Tyreek has like a pretty legit thing. And I just feel like he's the most dangerous weapon in the NFL.
I'll sprinkle this name in there. His team is 9-3, and not a lot of people are talking about him because offensively, they've run into some issues with injuries. Lamar?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm first in line for that train. And he has a better case, I think, than in terms of what he does for his team than Jalen Hurts or Brock Purdy. Because like the Ravens would suck without him. He does
100%, especially now without Mark Andrews too. Yeah. Like you don't have that anchor in the middle of the field.
Even with this new offense, like he is still like.
Like think about it. One of those games, the game they lost to the Steelers, they easily should have won, but his receivers failed him by dropping like 6 passes.
Yeah, and the problem is they just. I don't know what it is, if they're just like messing around or playing with their food or playing down to the level of their opponents, but like they just mess around and kind of like the Browns game I keep thinking of, like they just should not have lost that game. They were in a position to win that game, and I feel like we're the better team. Maybe not entirely. That defense was crazy, but they just mess around and play with their food. If they don't get the 1 seed or the 2 seed, it's going to be pretty hard to make that argument. And Lamar, the problem is he keeps handing the ball off to his running backs for touchdowns.
Oh, does that bug you a little bit?
So it does in terms of fantasy, but also it makes his resume harder to pitch.
Yeah.
When it's just like, yes, in football he's good and the offense is scoring, but he's like 180 yards, 1 touchdown, 70 on the ground. But it's just because Gus Edwards gets 3-yard touchdowns every week, so it look a lot different if he ends up punching those in if they do the tush push like the Eagles do or whatever. So I think he has a chance. I mean, if they end on a heater here and he's in a top 2 seed, he's a quarterback, so he'll probably be over Tyreek Hill. Like Tyreek's odds are way below all these guys, which I think is just kind of crazy because he's been incredible. But we'll see. Obviously, Mahomes was kind of up there for a while, but they're struggling quite clearly.
Yeah,
it's not his fault.
Yeah, I was gonna say I put that more on the receivers and the receiving core than necessarily Patrick Mahomes. He's still doing his thing of
but if they're gonna middle to the playoffs in a 4 or 5 seed, he's not gonna be able to.
No, he won't be MVP category. He would have to probably win out and have a lot of teams lose to really elevate his status. Like, his team has to finish better than where they're going to be.
I mean, before these 2 games, he was like in the top 3 sort of. It was like, if we don't know, let's just give it to Mahomes. And it's like,
he is a legit quarterback who makes the receivers around him based on what he's working with right now. Like, if they were catching balls, because
in the past,
like, he's putting in the right spot. That's not on him. It's his receiving core that is failing him, and if they win these games, it's mainly because of Patrick Mahomes. It's not because of anybody else or anything like that.
Yeah. So we'll see. It feels like it's going to go to a quarterback anyways, though.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll go to Jordan Love.
Fuck that.
I mean, by the end of last night's game, I think he's good. I think he's good. Those last 2 throws he made were incredible. And I was like, the whole game, I was like, no chance. I was doing my goose egg punishment, so, I was seeing a little less clear by the second half. But I was very impressed by the second half as well. That could have something to do with the Moscato. I don't know. But, oh my God, that throw he made to Romeo Doubs, I think it was on 4th down, like between 3 guys as he's falling. And then the other one maybe to Christian Watson in the end zone over his head. I think he might be good. I hate to say it, but I think he might be good. It's so annoying, too, that the Packers might do it again. I hate it. But he looked good. They've got a lot of young guys on that team.
Shut up. Just focus on your own team, dude. I don't want to hear this. Hear this talk about Jordan Love. I don't need another Packers quarterback to reign the NFC North for another 15 years.
I know.
It's already been it's been like 30 plus years of 2 quarterbacks just running train on the entire division.
I don't know if it'll be that level or that longevity, but I thought he sucked to start this year and through most of this year. But the last couple of games, he's played well, and that was the only time I really watched him play to play, and I was impressed by a couple of his throws.
That's all I can say.
It was an impressive couple of throws.
Couple of games.
It is, but it makes me wonder. I literally at the end of the game was like, great, now I have to think about that. It wasn't even like in the realm of what I was thinking about, and now it's like, might actually kind of something. I don't know. They might sneak into the playoffs here. They're holding on to the final seed right there. So we'll see. The Rams are on the bubble. They could sneak in. Seahawks on the bubble. They could sneak in. Someone, I guess, technically has to win the NFC South, and they'll get into the playoffs for some reason.
I mean, yeah, that could technically be the Bucs.
I mean, they're all, what are they, all 6 and 6? Or no, 5 and 7.
The Bucs are 5 and 7. The Falcons are 6 and 6.
I think we've said this a couple times. It doesn't really matter.
No.
Derek Carr continues to look terrible. I guess maybe the Bucs are the best of them. Just because they've got some receiving talent. Mike Evans continues to survive and have 1,000-yard seasons every year.
I was just looking at this list, and I was like, where the hell are the Panthers? I know they're not in playoff contention, but I was like, where are they?
You know where they are.
Well,
you got to pull up this other tab. It's called Tankathon.
No, well, yeah, there is that. But I'm looking at the NFL.com standings /playoff pictures, and I'm like going down. And usually it's like, this team's not going to make the playoffs. The Cardinals are not going to make the playoffs.
Why
They're
are
3-10.
The Patriots are on the bubble.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's only been one team that's officially eliminated so far, and it's Carolina Panthers. You have to scroll down just a little more down at the bottom.
Can we not eliminate the Pats yet?
Right? You could eliminate the Bears, the Cardinals, the Titans, the Patriots. They're not making the playoffs. Yeah, they're just not.
No, they're not. I'm just looking at it now. So the Texans bounced back out and are now on the bubble.
And they're in some trouble. Their star rookie, Tank Dell, is going to be out for the season now, which is a heartbreaker for that team.
He did so much for them and made so much work. So, and they've got some other guys who might be able to pick it up, but like at least in the box score of that game, it was basically just Nico Collins.
Yeah.
Everybody else was not really doing a ton, so it's like I don't know if they could get like a John Mechie to step up or.
Yeah, he's going to need to.
Schultz was out. Schultz will come back. That'll help.
Mechie's a guy that I thought was going to be doing a bit more in this offense for this team. Now, Tank Dell probably took a lot of those snaps away from him 100%. Just because they are in the slot and do that stuff together. But, I mean, now that he's out, this is a chance for Mechie to
It is.
step up. Like, he's got the speed. We know he's got the speed.
And I think Stroud missed him on a long ball that could have connected for a touchdown in that game. So there have been some moments. They've got a Xavier Hutchinson rookie who might come in. There's a couple other guys running. Noah Brown has had some blow-up games for them and didn't have one last week. So I'm rooting for him. I still rooting for Stroud to get there, and they're 7-5 along with a lot of these other teams, so it's certainly possible. But yeah, the Gardner Minshew Colts are still rolling, and the Joe Flacco Browns.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I think they fell a spot, but they're in the 7. They're in the 7 spot, so still playoff eligible.
Ooh.
They might make it to the playoffs with Joe Flacco. For a guy who hadn't played in, it hadn't been a full year yet, but pretty darn close. And he just signed last week to the Browns.
Yeah.
I thought he played pretty well. He had over 200 yards, a couple touchdowns. Now, his interceptions at the very end were Flacco-esque for sure. But
I've always thought Flacco was good.
So you're part of the Joe Flacco's elite group?
He was elite.
For that playoff run. Yeah.
He was elite. I don't know if he was elite. He was really good as a playoff quarterback.
He was a very solid quarterback.
He won. He started his playoff career better than he was in like the top 5 win percentage of all quarterbacks for the first 10, 12 starts in the NFL playoffs. So and he was on a lot of those good teams with the Ravens, but those Ravens teams were always the ones I was actually scared of as a Patriots fan. Occasionally it was a Peyton Manning team or a Broncos team. Most of the time it was the Ravens giving us the toughest battles. We had a couple games that we probably should not have even won to get us to Super Bowls over the Ravens, including the 14-28 Julian Edelman throwing passes game where Belichick was so deep in the bag that he pulled out the lineman is an eligible receiver rule that made Harbaugh blow a gasket. There was the other game where our Sterling Moore, I think our cornerback, knocked it out of their guy's hands in the end zone that would have ended the game just in time to not be a touchdown. So those teams I thought were always good. Joe Flacco obviously did win a Super Bowl with the team and in a sort of quarterback managing role. So yeah, just another guy.
I would say
who
they
I'm
won
glad
the Super Bowl. They at least got to the Super Bowl because of Joe Flacco. Because he went on a heater that playoff run.
Yeah, he's not Jimmy Garoppolo. He's better than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes,
for
100%.
sure.
But
and not just because they happened to win that game, but
yeah,
he's solid. I'm glad the Jets didn't get him. Just another quarterback the Jets didn't get. Have you heard the news too about the Jets that popped up yesterday and today?
The one they might go back to Zach Wilson.
They're like, Tim Boyle is terrible.
Oh, I could have told you that 5 years ago.
In college.
Yeah,
but he's friends with Aaron Rodgers, so we'll let him play for 2 games. Oh, he's still terrible. Let's go back to Zach Wilson again. Oh, he doesn't want us to go back to him.
He doesn't want to play?
That was the added news, was like, they want to go back to him. Zach Wilson was not as sure. It was like, wow. But it's like, once again, they have completely butchered this.
Yeah, well, that's
sitting
Jets.
Him, benching him, sitting him.
That's Jets, for sure.
I never understood why they went away from him for Boyle. Honestly, Zach Wilson offers you more. I don't get that at all. I know that he's not good, but that's not better. At least he's athletic and has some tools and has an arm and has won NFL games in his past. Tim Boyle's never won a game in the NFL, and he's always thrown 1+ interceptions in any games that he's played meaningful snaps in.
That goes all the way back to college.
Well, yeah, that's what they were drafting, I guess. So they got it.
I guess
or
so. Whoever signed him, because he was not drafted.
No,
he was an undrafted free agent.
But speaking of those bottom teams and whatnot, the Cardinals beat the Steelers and got to 3 wins, making it just Carolina, and then.
Right now, you're hoping for a Carolina win because you actually have the tiebreaker, I heard.
Over the Panthers?
Somehow you guys have the tiebreaker. I heard that.
In the good way or the bad way?
In the good way, as in you would be first.
So the bad way. Okay. Which is the good way.
Which is the good way for your team, but bad way overall. Yes. It's the classic love-hate relationship.
This is the only thing I'm looking at as far as the Patriots at this point in the season. They had another abysmal score. It keeps getting more pathetic.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I saw a stat. We were the first team.
You did Iowa football proud, by the way.
First team since 1938 to allow 10 or less points in 3 straight games and lose all of them. It's pretty pathetic. So I do hope the Panthers win. We're 2-10. We're looking at it. I'm looking at quarterbacks. I'm looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm looking at the Cardinals and Washington and Chicago to win a couple games.
Really solidify that spot.
Are you selling yourself on Marvin Harrison Jr.? Because if I'm a Patriots fan, I have to take a quarterback because there's nobody who can play quarterback for me right now.
Well, I agree. I just think, one, hilarious revenge on the Colts to draft Marvin Harrison. Hilarious.
Okay, yeah, that'd be a good troll.
Also,
on that one.
I think he's a more sure thing than any quarterback, unless... Well, no, I think he's a more sure thing than any quarterback.
Probably.
I just think
I don't disagree with that.
The quarterbacks, it's like even the great ones, it's kind of a coin flip. And my thing is, ideally, maybe, I would say we get Marvin Harrison Jr. and then we draft one of these other guys in the second or third round. There's a lot of good quarterbacks.
You and I were talking about that last night.
One of the Pac-12 guys. Maybe
we were talking about Penix earlier. I don't think he'll be in the first round. That's a guy you could probably...
Sure. Penix, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, the LSU guy.
He's an interesting prospect.
He's got a lot of tools, a lot of talent. So,
yeah.
And then, that's beside the obvious Caleb Williams, Drake May. So I'm kind of talking myself into that. Obviously, if it's top 2 and those 2 quarterbacks are there, maybe you just have to do that. But to be clear, we're coming out of the draft with a quarterback regardless.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. But
with how that quarterback room is in New England right now, that's kind of a no-brainer.
The idea I think that I like about the Harrison thing is we draft one of those quarterbacks. It's here you go. Here's a terrible line and nobody to catch the ball. Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
At least if you get Harrison and bring in another rookie, it's okay, you guys do your thing.
You guys start
we'll
this
figure out all this
right
other
now.
garbage.
I could see them, you're kind of talking me into it. I could see them going Marvin Harrison if they're at number 2, taking him at 2. And then, second round, you take a lineman because I know that's kind of been an issue for you guys.
Of those 2. Yeah.
And then the third round, you do exactly what you're just saying. Pick up one of those quarterbacks. People have found successful quarterbacks in rounds 3 through 4.
100%.
And 5.
It's usually either a top 2-3 guy or it's a third, fourth, Dak, Russ. Any of these guys.
You look back at the last few draft classes, how many of them are successful that are drafted in the top 5? Because a lot of them go to obviously you're going to a shitty team.
Yes.
So there's not a lot to build around you unless you were literally a quarterback away. Sometimes with the Bengals, Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
He came into a position where it's all right, we got receivers around him. We just need somebody competent to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And it worked out. But for most people, it's just
it's Bryce Young.
It's Bryce Young. It's Zach Wilson. Some success, you could say, Trevor Lawrence, but there's also been some very bad games. So, there's no perfect formula to find that quarterback early in the draft.
No.
It's all a whim and a guess, and I like this guy. I liked what he got at dinner, so I'm going to draft him. And for Bear's sake, goes, this guy reminds me. He's still driving his 96 Accord or whatever. That's what I used to drive. So we're going to draft Mitch Trubisky. And it's the stupid stuff like that.
Drake May, North Carolina, a little scary.
Yeah, I actually like Drake May. I talked
I'm intrigued.
I talked to you about Drake May a couple of years ago or whatever when he was playing. I was like, I'd like to draft him in our fantasy league.
Yeah, they have a chance.
I mean, he's at North Carolina. It's not like they're a powerhouse. I didn't expect them to be in the running for the national championship or anything like that. So, I think he's
maybe next year when there's 12 teams.
When there's 12 teams, maybe then I'd be a little bit more disappointed. I'd be a bit disappointed if you. Well, no, they didn't win the ACC, so they wouldn't have the automatic berth. But if you're at 12 teams and you're supposed to be one of the top quarterbacks and you don't make the 12-team playoff, unless you're a mid-major quarterback that people are looking at, that's a little different. But if you're at one of those major programs and you haven't willed your team into the 12-team playoff, then I'd be maybe a little concerned about that.
But yeah, I mean, and like you said, most of the great quarterbacks who are playing right now. You either are that top guy or you're not. Tua, top 3, 4, 5 pick. Jalen Hurts, late round pick. Lamar Jackson, end of first round. Brock Purdy, end of the whole draft.
He was literally Mr. Irrelevant.
Trevor Lawrence, number 1. Jared Goff, top 3 or something.
He was number 1. He was number 1 overall.
Mahomes, obviously, mid first round.
Yep.
Ritter, I don't even remember. Doesn't matter.
I think was a second round pick.
Dak, obviously, late rounds.
He was third round pick.
Gardner Minshew, 4th round. Must have been late rounds.
Minshew was an undrafted signed free agent.
Jordan Love, mid first round.
He was a late first round pick.
Stafford was pretty high.
Stafford was 1-1.
He was 1-1. Russ, late round.
Well, Russ was a third-round draft.
Gino, kind of an early round bust, and then he wasn't. Kind of a Tannehill
He's had a
situation.
Resurgence, but yeah,
Josh
exactly.
Allen?
I don't
Tannehill.
remember where Josh Allen was.
Josh Allen
He wasn't
was
that
pick
early.
number like 13 or something like that.
Okay.
He was a no, he might have been earlier than that.
Baker was 101, wasn't he?
He was 1-1, yeah.
That's still
Baker was
kind of
1-1.
crazy. But he's still... So it's either the 1-1s or a little later. Wow.
But even...
Shocker. Somewhere in the draft. What a wild thing I've said.
Well, I mean, even
Justin
1-1...
Herbert, late
He was a late first-round pick, I want to say.
Late first, and then there's C.J. Stroud, who seems like he's one of those early round guys.
Well, you're forgetting Justin
it'll
Fields.
pan
Like,
out
he was a number
Right.
11, so that's like sort of mid, late, early.
Yeah.
If that even made sense of a sentence right there.
Kyler was pretty early.
Kyler was 1-1.
And,
But, like,
yeah.
how many of them are full-on successful?
Yes.
Like, Trevor Lawrence,
Less.
1-1 is not full-on successful. Baker Mayfield was on his fourth team.
Yeah.
He was 1-1.
Not as there's a universe out there somewhere where him and the Browns are perennial contenders still.
I didn't hate him when he was on the Browns.
He was good. He
I
was fine.
thought he was what they
He played
needed
through
at
an
that
injury,
time.
and then they threw him out to the
that was
garbage.
We don't have to
that was-
relitigate this whole.
Yeah, no, that's the Browns being dumb.
Yes.
Let's
So I could go either way on that.
But speaking of tanking and horrible teams, yeah, the Sandbaggers. Is that what we're
Sandbaggers. Yeah, that's
'Cause-
exactly what I was about to get to. We have to recap week 12.
Because my whole strategy was to take as many Pats as possible.
Well, that was week 13 for you because
Oh, yeah.
a lot of teams were on bye. We have
Yes.
to recap
Yes, we
week 12. At the time, I was leading 6-5, 6 lower scoring teams to your 5 because that's what it's all about. Got to have the lower score.
Golf rules.
DeVito played fine. He had an 8.44 for me. Then I had Pacheco, who had 20.9 points. That one hurt me a little bit. You actually ended up winning week 12, so you tied it up
Good.
6-all. You had a late scratch. Lazard was a scratch, so you picked up Alec Pierce, which plays into next week.
That backfired somehow.
It did. You also had the Cardinals defense that went -4. That also helped you out. You won week 12 by scoring 53.32 points. That's up near the top for the lowest scores that we've ever had. I had 77.92, which
Ooh.
I guess you could say is on the higher end of our scores so
that's
far.
back to like week 3 and 4 when we were figuring
It
this out.
was Chuba Hubbard went for 17.1, and
That's
then
kinda
Pacheco
good.
went 20.9.
He's good.
The Bears defense had 11, and then Jake
That's
Elliott
pretty
went for 9.9. So he was almost double digits too. That kind of hurt me. Week 13, though, a lot of teams were on bye. So AOC for the Raiders, he was on bye. For your team, James Cook, the Buffalo Bills running back, was on bye. Darnell Mooney was on bye. Daniel Carlson, the Raiders kicker, was on
Thank
bye.
God.
So you finally had to pick up some people.
Thank God. The kicker.
Your strategy was let me pick up all the New England Patriots
I
players.
took Bailey Zappi.
Your direct text to me, I'm pretty sure, was whoever the starting quarterback is for the Patriots this week,
Yep.
I want him. I was like, all right, cool, I can make that work.
Yep.
Then you said, I told you about Mooney, and you're like, oh, God, who do I pick up? And then you said, well, Juju's back playing again. And I was like, all right,
And
I'll allow it.
steam started coming out of your ears.
Well, not that time. The week before when you tried to pull that shenanigans. But it was actually back into playing more snaps. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Then you're like, well,
Douglas was out.
yeah. And then you're just like, well, my kicker's out. Might as well just pick up the rookie kicker for the Patriots. So you picked up Chad Ryland.
Which was great.
They put up a total of 8.04 points.
Oh, man.
Bailey Zappi had 6.44. Schuster had 1.6. And because you guys were shut out, the kicker did absolutely nothing. I was actually hoping he would have missed a kick and he would have had negative points. That would have been comical and really. I saw zeros.
I think what I saw is he missed 5 straight kicks and warm-ups.
Oh no!
So that was what I saw.
So not a lot of confidence for him to go in. That's for sure. And you actually had another zero. Jack Stoll, whoever the tight end. You still have him because Goddard is still hurt. You still have him. He put up a goose egg.
Really?
Yes.
I thought I had Granson. He actually played well.
Yeah, Granson did.
How did I?
Because I said when Goddard got back healthy.
I mean, how did I not freaking lose?
Oh yeah, I know.
I don't understand. I mean, I know my freaking James Conner, I think, is probably the reason.
Najee Harris put up 10-3.
Yeah.
James Conner put up 22 points.
Yeah.
The Cardinals defense was pedestrian, but put up points this week, 7.44. And then Alec Pierce, the best game of his freaking career, 17.5 points. He had over 100 yards, one touchdown.
Favor.
Yeah, one last favor for
3 catches for 100 and a touch. They must have had a long play.
Yes, he did have one where he got tackled at the goal line for one of them, so he could have had 2 touchdowns.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that one really could have hurt you. You ended up with 65.28 points, despite 2 goose eggs and a 1.6 from a wide receiver.
It's basically just those 3 guys. It's just the 2 running backs and Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
God.
For me, I had to replace Danny DeVito. I know it's not Danny DeVito. It's,
Wait.
I don't know what his first name is. Tommy DeVito, I think is what it is.
Okay.
Replace him with Desmond Ridder.
Oh, okay.
I texted you all these ahead of time, so these should not be shockers to you.
They're not shockers, but they're refreshing.
Yes. So Ridder put up a 6.84. So I ran into that whole Monday night scenario a couple weeks ago, so I had to pick up Pacheco, so he's still on my team.
That's good for me.
20.6 points.
Yeah, he's good.
That one hurt.
You have him on your real team, so that
I have. Yeah, I am very conflicting, but I was just like I had to go with somebody because I was stuck on the Monday night. Yeah, you know,
it was him or Swift, I think.
Yeah, which honestly, Swift might.
He played pretty bad today, or something.
Yeah, he did not play well. Then I had Chuba Hubbard, 21.9 this week.
God. I can't believe I lost.
Yeah, I got a 0 from Lazard, so that helped me out a lot.
Lazard. You said Lazard, and I was like, "Crap, I forgot he existed." I just had him.
Yeah, well, he was back healthy and on the field. Of all this, Scantling putting up a 3.5. Noah Fant actually put up one of his highest scores of the year with a 5.8.
Wow.
My kicker, Elliott, got 7.9. And the only reason I won this, I should have lost. The only reason I won is because my defense, the Washington Commanders, went up against Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins. And they were a negative 4.56, which put my total at 61.98. And had the score just been a 0 for the defense, it would have put me at 66.54, a whole 0.1 or 1.3 points ahead of you.
God.
So that put me back in the lead. Wow. The lowest score, 61.98 this week. I now lead overall 7-6.
So I need more Patriots.
I mean, I guess.
I'm gonna get more.
I'm not gonna lie. That doesn't. I get what you're doing. I respect it, but man, that kind of ruins the fun for me because I know they're that bad. But like, come on, man, we're picking up real people over here.
Okay, well, fair. I mean, yeah.
I get what you're doing.
I'll keep Jack Stoll. You're right. He's good. He's solid.
I respect what you're doing because one, it's your own team. Your own team that you actually cheer for. So it's sort of funny in that sense.
Yes. It makes it a little easier for me because I'm like, yes, he did terrible. That's good for me, at least in some version of this. The only thing I would really think about is Ramondre got hurt, I believe. And I think one of my running backs is on bye, so I was peeking at Ezekiel Elliott a little bit.
James Conner's going to be on bye for this week.
Thank God. That's the only real thing I was thinking about. It's just tough because, like, weirdly, it's hard to pick a bad running back right now.
Very hard. Like, it's very tough.
It really is. Like, even your Chuba pick, I was like, good pick, team sucks. He's kind of good.
He's been doing work for him.
He does stuff. Like, I've tried to pick at Arizona's terrible team, and James Conner and he murdered me. It's like, I don't know, Brian Robinson. I can't remember how hurt he is. Maybe it was
a hamstring, so that's soft tissue. Like those are not ones to mess around, and they're not really in playoff contention. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them. I don't want to say shut him down, but there's just not much.
Maybe I'll think about one of the Bears running backs. Does that make you feel better? It's my team or your team?
I mean, you can go right ahead and do it. I don't think the Bears running backs have done a whole bunch lately.
Leaning towards that because all these other bottom teams, like Jets, have good running backs. Giants have Saquon. Tennessee has Henry, although he might be hurt. Not going to take Kamara on New Orleans, or Josh Jacobs on Vegas, or Eckler on the Chargers, or Rachaad White. Like, there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah, that's tough. I have to replace my defense. The Commanders, they're on bye. I'm going to take the Panthers.
Oh. Who do they play next week?
I don't know, but
they're probably gonna suck.
Yeah.
What's weird is I almost want to take the Patriots defense because, like, fantasy wise, they're not scoring well, but they're playing well. But if they don't get turnovers, it's just 6 points. It's like 6. We held them to 6. They had almost no yards. That's not really worth that much. It's like, nope, I guess not.
No.
Like,
you have to replace your defense too, by the way.
Oh, there you go. So I'll ruminate on that and
So you have to replace your running back and your defense, both
Cards?
on the Cardinals.
Cards have been good to me. I've had them all year.
You might have to change your tight end depending on if Goddard gets healthy or not.
I probably should just to have a real one.
Yeah, I think so too. It'd be more fun, but
I agree. I forgot I even had that guy.
I respected that he was still in the starting lineup.
Sure.
And didn't feel like I needed to bug you with another person to replace, even though you haven't had to replace that many so far this year.
I was thinking about like a Durham Smythe on the Dolphins. Because as good as their offense is and as much as they do not throw to their tight end. So...
Do you want him?
No, I'm just throwing that out there that I've thought about it.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
I will continue to think about it and get back to you.
I mean, you got time. You could do a Thursday night guy, too. Like I had somebody last week.
I've got to look at... Well, I guess this is probably the last bye week. So
this is the last bye week.
I got to pick who I want for the rest of the season here.
Yeah, you got 5 more weeks after this.
I'll have to look at everything, see how it pans out, and then I'll pick the Patriots. Because they're really bad, it seems. But yeah, that's kind of Sandbaggers. I did have a quick nerd corner if you want to.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you want. I think I'm going to talk about. There's a new. I don't know.
Wait a second. Hold on. Before we get going.
Okay.
What about our goose eggs?
Oh.
Do you want to talk about those punishments? How they've been going?
It's starting to heat up. People are participating after lots of prodding. What is the rule? Explain this.
Honestly, I knew you guys had brought it up, but past times we've brought up rules in the middle of the season, we're like, we'll just implement it next year.
It's usually a scoring rule.
That's true, but that is my reference.
Sure.
That is my reference into this group, because again, this is my second season with you guys. So
although in the past we have just changed rules on a weekly basis if everybody agrees. So that's not...
So you would know that. I don't necessarily know that.
Yeah, Chase threw that out there, and I was like, well, that's not really true, but sure. Yeah, for the most part, that is a good way to do things.
Yeah. Anyways, this year I would say probably week 4. Somebody brought it up, maybe a little earlier than that.
I thought it was maybe 4 weeks ago from here.
No, because I was 4 weeks back. Remember, I had to do mine, and that was 2 weeks ago. So it had to be 2 months ago. We'll say 2 months ago. Somebody brought this up that we should shotgun a beer.
Or something
of the like of something, an alcoholic beverage. You had to chug, basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
If your player that you started in your lineup puts up a goose egg, a 0.
0.0 in our case. 0.00.
Yeah, 0.00. Like, what if
dead on?
Yeah, you need to have 0.00 because I don't think I made. Last week, somebody's like, "Oh, they were in the negative." I was like, "But it's not technically a 0."
No, I leave that up to them. If they don't want to do it, they're just a coward, and that's fine.
I agree. I tried to give them a little cop out, but
I would take the coward's way out sometimes.
Yeah, I would too. But let me tell you that
I haven't had to because I've already hit the very first one to ever do it was me immediately after I suggested the rule.
Yes, you said let's implement it, and you had to do it right away. I think I had a 0 that same week, but I don't remember seeing that video. Which I would have done mine much sooner had I seen the video, but it might have been one of those days where I had to put the league chat on mute.
Yeah,
because I was doing something and that probably popped up, and I don't always scroll all the way back to the last thing I read.
It was pretty late. I got back from Blazers and knocked one out after somebody gave me a 0. But it's been fun. Since then, we've had multiple other people do it. We've had multiple other versions of it, with whether chugging or alcohol or beer or wine or beer bong. Even last night,
we had a beer bong. I've been shotgunning beer. You shotgun White Claws. You also downed a bunch of wine.
I did drink some
the other
Moscato.
night.
The only other thing I had was IPA, and I was like, I'm not doing that.
Well, who was it? Was it Aaron that did?
I haven't seen Aaron do it.
No, not Aaron. I'm forgetting who it was. You're obviously better with the names. I think of the fantasy names. But they chugged the beer without puncturing a hole. It was an IPA one.
Oh, that was Marco. Marco was a take, yeah.
Yeah,
Marco was just like, here we go. And he just downed it.
No flow, and it was an IPA. And I was just like, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
And so I gave him all the props in the world because...
Yes. Yeah, there have been some impressive ones.
I cannot chug beer normally. I need that flow to force it down my throat, basically.
Mine weren't great, but the production quality of the videos I thought was pretty solid, so I was pretty happy with that. I gotta put mine near
the top so far. At least the lack triple? Of... Well, I was going to say the lack of beer drippage.
Well, yes.
The lack of beer drippage.
If that's how you rate it, you're near the top.
And doing it all, yeah, So what brings us back to, though, is I made the mistake. We decided that for every week that you don't do it, you have to tack on another beer that you have to shotgun.
Yeah.
I dragged my feet for a while, mainly because I was looking for just
interest. That's what it's called. Sorry.
Interest, yes. I was mainly just looking for like a 6-pack of Bud Light or Coors
something light.
Apparently, they just don't make those anymore. It has to be a 12-pack. I have yet to see a 6-pack of those at the stores that I've gone to. Specifically, this no ads here. It's a grocery chain that starts with an S and ends in way.
It's Rite Aids.
Yes, Rite Aids. Yes, yes. They don't do just 6-packs of it, and if they do, it's bottles, and I can't shotgun a bottle, obviously.
Only a few can.
Yeah, and that's not me.
Takes a samurai's touch.
Yeah, so
it's been a fun rule though. People have gotten a little more engaged who aren't usually engaged.
I had to do 4 of them in a row. I did give myself. I gave myself.
You were very engaged at that point.
Yeah, I had realizing that they were stacking up against me. I just went out and bought a 12-pack, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna knock these out. I gave myself 2-3 minutes in between each one, kind of like just to get the air bubbles and everything else like that out.
Yes.
Knocked them out. I thought maybe one video would be enough, and then I was thinking in my mind, I was like, no, they're going to want to see all 4. Like, seeing a picture of 4 empty ones only goes so far.
Yeah.
So, yeah, had to do 4 videos and just spammed the group chat with them all.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, guys, these are done. I have since had to do 2 other shotguns. One of them was...
Wasn't the end of that day you had to do the Garrett Wilson one?
No. That was...
I thought it happened right after that.
It was the following week, but it was like I think like 3 or 4 days later.
I think that's still my favorite and the most hilarious goose egg because he played the whole game.
Had catches and yards and
fumbled. And the reason he was at straight 0 is because he had a tackle for 0.1 points that brought him up to 0.
Because he was a negative 0.1,
which was just the most incredible stat line to get to 0. And everyone's like, 2 catches, 7 yards, a fumble, lost fumble, 1 tackle, 0.
Hey, with Zach Wilson in that quarterback, you're good for a tackle maybe out of him too. So I still would have done it because he would have been negative 0.1. But the classic just 0.00 after that entire game. Where he played about 95% of the snaps.
It's a comedy of errors.
That one rubbed me a little bit the wrong way because I was like, God damn it! He had catches, he had yards, he just fumbled, lost the fumble, which is also a -1. It's the comical 1 tackle for 0.1 to make it a exact 0.
Oh my God!
And then this week I had to do it. Somebody got hurt, I think, and I just had to do.
I had to do it for my beloved Tank Dell.
Yeah.
So good. And then I realized after I had done that Myles Garrett had a 0.
That one hurts. Yeah, we started to do independent defensive players too, which
is a dangerous precedent to set.
Very much backfire on you quickly.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly 0, so I do still think that is a little more rare, even though those guys will end up at like 0.1, 0.2 a lot of the times if they don't do much. But you got to get at least 1 tackle. You got to do something to keep me alive there. So, yeah, even though I had like the second most points this week, I had to do 2 shotguns. So, 1 shotgun and 1 Moscato chug.
Yeah, 1 Moscato chug.
Let's call it 1.
Did you do the little spin thing to get it to go down or no?
Over the top of my head after.
Oh, no. I just mean... So when you have those bottles that don't have airflow, you can create like a vortex and it just shoots it down so you don't get air bubbles.
Didn't think it had that much. No.
Well, in the future.
Oh, okay.
Let me know how that works out.
I'll never get another goose egg, so I think it'll be okay.
Never again. All right, look, you got a little bit of time for Nerd Corner. What hit us with it?
Well, technically not
Anime Corner.
It's not. It's Anime Corner this week or what?
Well, technically, I don't know. It's They came out with a new animated Scott Pilgrim show on Netflix with a lot of the creators. And I think Edgar Wright's like a producer, and a lot of the same voices as the actors in the live action movie with Michael Cera. And, I don't what. Now I can't remember.
I'm blanking on her name.
Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah.
And Chris Evans, and I always forget the name of the Ramona Flowers person. It's like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, maybe that might be it. I don't know. She was in Ahsoka.
Still haven't seen it, so that means nothing to me.
Nothing to say about that. But yeah, it was a new animated.
By the way, are we painting all of our chugs in the group chat? I'm just realizing like somebody pinned my message.
I pinned all of them.
Moscato is pinned.
I pin all of them.
Oh, okay.
Can you see my pins?
I thought everybody had their own individual pins.
I can see this. So it just says pinned message. It doesn't say who it's by. It just says that it's been pinned.
Oh yeah, I pin all of them.
Just so I can have a little catalog.
There should be a compilation video at the very end.
Yeah.
Of everybody.
Download things off of the Sleeper app. I will try to do that.
I guess, yeah, you can't really... anyways, go on.
But yeah,
sorry.
A new animated show, Scott Pilgrim.
I assumed it was just the animated version of the show.
Easy.
Or the movie.
It's easy.
Or whatever. Oh, it is?
You can literally just download it from the...
Oh, okay.
I might have to do that. Make a big
scrapbook.
Sorry, anyway, Scott Pilgrim.
There's a lot of funny clips in there, or images, if nothing else. Yeah, new Scott Pilgrim animated show. I assumed it was just going to be the like comic or game or movie animated.
Yeah.
With the voices. It's not that at all. It is for the first episode, and then it takes a hard left turn.
Oh.
And becomes a totally new thing.
Okay.
So it was pretty fascinating. I don't think I like mentally realized or adjusted to that until like almost the end. I was like, no, but really, when are we gonna get back to? No, okay, yeah, but when we what is the show? So it took me a long time to get my head around it, but it is not a remake of the movie at all. It's just not. It is
it's its own story.
It is, and then it takes a left turn and becomes something new, and it's a new story. So I was pretty surprised by that, but yeah, it's great voice acting, all the same people, and pretty good music, pretty good animation, pretty fun. Will Forte shows up. He's always great.
As himself? Animated version?
No, he just does a voice.
Oh, okay.
He does a voice. But yeah, I don't know. It was pretty great. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it because I just was expecting a remake, and it was not that. But it was really interesting in its own way. So I don't really want to say any more than that. But it's got the same kind of feel as that first one. But it's a new thing. So if you were looking at this like, oh yeah, it's a remake or whatever, it's like, no, this is a new thing. So if you're interested in seeing more of this world or story or characters, this is a way to do that, and it's kind of doing its own thing, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. So that's about all I have to say without diving into what they actually do, which is fascinating. But it was pretty good. I was surprised. At the direction they went. It just seems like it would. All these things are easily. Let's just do it again. Here it is. It's animated. But yeah, went a different direction with it. So I was excited by that.
Yeah, no. Nice when they have their own a little bit of originality.
Yeah, an actual like reason for it to be there, other than just like a cash grab or whatever.
Yeah, that's the worst. The worst type of product is just a cash grab.
Yeah, it's just like, here's this thing. All right, pay up. All right, we're out. We didn't have to write or make or do anything. It's the live action Disney movies, basically.
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, here's your Lion King. We made it animated, and all the songs suck now. We brought back some of the actors, not all of them.
Not all of them, yeah.
But some of them. Okay. So, but yeah, that's a whole nother subject. But I was it was pretty good. I was excited about it. But that's about all I have for Nerd Corner this week.
All right, that's a pretty light Nerd Corner. I feel like we're usually rolling in there for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes in the corner, and today it was maybe 6.
Keep it tight. I mean, we could generally talk real quick about there's a new Fallout TV show coming out that you saw some stills for.
I saw some stills for. I thought...
it might be good.
I thought some of the characters looked pretty bulky.
Bulky, yeah.
In the stills.
It's got my guy Walton Goggins.
Okay, I like him.
But he's playing the no-nose ghoul-looking guy, so it's kind of hard to
recognize him
tell,
or just.
But I've been told it's Walton Goggins. It kind of looks like him.
Okay.
The interesting thing about this is it's made by Jonathan Nolan, the Westworld guy, Christopher Nolan's brother.
Okay.
So
I liked Westworld. So
I liked Westworld until I didn't. And
I have not seen the last season.
I gave up after season 2.
Yeah, I did stop after season 2.
Fantastic season 1 and
I love season 1.
Good season 2. That kind of falls apart at a certain point. And then I never watched anymore. But yeah, there was a lot of awesome visual stuff in that and storytelling in the first season. So if you can bring some of that to this Fallout, I guess I'm interested. There was definitely some cool visuals from the stills and the trailer.
Definitely.
I don't know. I guess it could work. A post-apocalyptic kind of survival show seems like it's within the wheelhouse of these things. So it could be pulled off.
I mean, you think about some of the other ones that have worked both in movies and television, like The Walking Dead lasted for the longest time.
Yeah.
Even though it's just like I think you and I have had this conversation where probably went on a couple seasons too long, probably.
Yes.
But then I think about like the Mad Max, where
Yeah. Oh God, maybe that's what we should be talking about. There was a new Mad Max trailer. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
Okay, who cares about Fallout? There's a new Mad Max trailer. It looks incredible. It's a Furiosa prequel with Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. It looks amazing. It's gonna be like the best movie of the fucking year. I love that.
Yeah, because I remember people saying Fury Road was gonna be the one that.
Fury Road's incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. I still remember seeing it in theaters. This is gonna be the same thing. I'm actually way more excited for that than
I'm glad I could spark your memory for
it's just like, another post-apocalyptic world with visuals that looks way better. Yeah, it's George Miller's back. He's doing it again. It's gonna be awesome. That
Fury Road is just a
when you get the original person back into it.
Yeah.
It feels like they've stepped away enough to where now they've got their own fresh ideas for it all to really implement it again. So, I can see why people would be excited having him.
Give me more of that world.
Fury Road is
such a watchable movie. My favorite, like, little trivia thing about that movie is he kind of designed it in a way where it would work without audio. And it does. Like, you can
have it on mute. And
there's very little dialogue even in the movie, but so much of it is kind of done visually and stuff that you can get away with it. And
don't hit the mic, please.
I'll try not to, but
it's getting excited.
Mad Max is coming back. That's going to be awesome and probably 10 times better than Fallout, but Fallout could be okay, I guess. They're walking around in the power suits, and I was like, it doesn't look terrible, I guess.
Like bulky and everything, but then
they definitely did look bulky.
That's what I meant when I saw those guys.
A little clunky, but not super cosplay, which is good, I guess.
Yeah, you could kind of
the danger.
It made me think of the people walking around in the Halo suits in the Halo show a little bit.
Which is a show I've avoided and
it was
will
like
continue to avoid.
Sort of clunky walking around, bulky again.
But Mad Max, though.
Mad Max, yeah.
That's not going to be bulky.
Mad Max, we'll see. That's pure action.
Chris Hemsworth looks like a lunatic, too. He just has like the long, scraggly beard and no shirt. And
I feel like he's been waiting to play a role like that.
It looks perfect, yeah. It's like Thor 200 years later when all his friends are dead. He's just wandering around the desert or something. So that movie's going to be incredible. I can't wait. That was a good video game, too, if you ever played that way back in the day.
The Mad Max one?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I have not played that one.
It's pretty good. You can probably get on this PS4. You just roll around in the car and kind of, you're like, run into bandits or whatever and load up on fuel and keep adding to your car and get all kinds of guns and spiky things on your wheels, and you're going around meeting different people in the wasteland. It's a pretty solid game.
I gotta get through a couple other games before I get
you do.
I've got a long list of games that you've given me.
Yes.
I'm making my way through. I feel like I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima, and it's
great.
Great game.
Yeah.
Having a lot of fun with it. Just a long story right now. Long story.
Are you making the story long, or?
Probably I'm making the story long, but I like getting the certain accomplishments,
Oh, yeah.
Because then it's like my resolve is of what they say is harder now after I do like the haikus or the bamboo strike things.
Yeah, find all the foxes,
all the fox
But you might be near in the end, it seems like.
Yeah, I can't go back to the previous land because I'm like isolated.
Oh, you're locked into the story or something.
Into the north part of the island. So,
great game.
Making my way through it though, it's a lot of fun. I'm having more fun with it than I initially thought I might.
Yeah, you've been on that one for a while.
It's an information overload in the first 30 minutes you play the game because you're teaching all the buttons pretty fast.
Yeah.
And then the worst part was I stepped away from it. I just wanted to make sure it still worked the first time because originally when you gave me the PS4, it says, "Oh, Ghost of Tsushima is not downloading." I was like, okay, but I was playing The Last of Us, so started up, worked, did the first running around. And this had to be close to 6 months ago now, easily.
Yeah.
And then didn't really pick it up again until a couple months ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And that was after I did both The Last of Us games and Spider-Man.
Great. But it is hard coming back to that.
Something's being delivered.
To a certain mechanic to a game and not being in the flow of it, and then you're like, I don't remember how to jump or crawl or whatever. But you'll get through them, and it'll maybe we'll have some more ammo for Nerd Corner in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. But that'll wrap up this episode.
Yeah, you got delivery. We gotta go.
Yeah, I know. Things are going down. I gotta go register for a new license and everything.
Gotta do that.
But yeah, that wraps up this episode of Sportslandia. That's Ray Bradley. I'm Brian Sly. Thanks for tuning in. Brought to you by the Next Professional Athlete platform, and now brought to you by my home office. Appreciate you.
Thank you, home office. Week.